This was in Norway Chess round 3. Pragg was facing Magnus Carlsen. We know that Pragg has won a few online games and rapid offline games against Magnus, but he has not won a classical game against Magnus over the board. And this was the first time Pragg won against the world number one. Pragg starts with e4, c5, the Sicilian by Magnus, knight f3, e6, and d4. We have the open Sicilian. A6. This is called the can variation of the Sicilian. It's very popular. You can see a lot of games played on this line. Bishop d3, queen c7, castles, knight f6, queen e2, and d6. All pretty standard. And now Pragg chooses to play c4, the Maroczy bind structure. This c and e pawns control all the breaks of the opponent. There's a bind in the position. This is very popular for white. Now Magnus chooses the hedgehog structure. He is going to play b6, and these pawns are going to act like a hedgehog. They can strike forward if you go too close. Knight e5 is a very nice move because it eliminates the bishop pair from Pragg. Pragg goes for h3. He had a lot of thing here. He took like 17 minutes here. And now after b6, he again thought for 5 minutes and played f4. Now takes, bishop b7. The computer really likes this position. It's 0.64 because computer likes the space. But from a human perspective, black has got the activity, and black has got this hedgehog structure stopping the pawn pushes, uh, not completely, but at least for now. So this is fine for black. F5, a very good move by Pragg. Instead of developing his queenside pieces, Magnus should have thought about castling because now his king is slightly caught off guard. Here, Magnus has to play e5 to close things out. And Magnus actually goes queen d7. And now Pragg goes bishop g5, completing development, and he brings his rook into the game. So all the pieces are active. This is definitely good for white now. It's Magnus is in trouble. Rook c8, and now comes queen e2. This was the only move to keep the advantage, to keep a good advantage, that is, to keep a winning advantage. The point of queen e2, once you see it, you will understand the idea is to play e5 because black's king is still in the middle. So queen e5. If you go castle, still e5. And if you take, then there's knight takes pawn. There's a discovered attack on the queen, and the rook is gone. So queen e2 is a very strong move. Let's see how long Pragg thought for this. He took 10 minutes think to play queen e2. Magnus still has an edge on the clock, but the position is becoming more and more problematic for Magnus. Magnus goes e5. He has to not allow e5 from Pragg. Pragg takes on f6, takes, and knight c2. Both knights are rerouting to d5 because the exchanges happened on f6, so there's no knight to challenge it. That'll be a monster knight if it lands there. So here he doesn't go knight d5 because the c4 pawn is hanging. I suppose if you go knight d5 here, it's still good for white. Queen takes pawn. Can we play queen takes? Sorry, we can't do that. So the pawn hangs just like that. Can we take on b6? Probably, but then at the end, even the e4 pawn hangs. So takes, and takes. Yeah, still the e4 pawn hangs from the rook. Oh wait. Oh, there's bishop e3 check. That is the problem. So he can't take on b6. So because of this line, Pragg just moved his king across, stopping this idea. So now he's ready to jump in. This is not a problem really. After knight d5, that is. So takes, and still this is not a problem because black's king is in the center. So the queen entering will only help white because there are things hanging over there. F6, d3. So f6 was to stop white from pushing forward because f6, g6, and queen h6 would have also been good for white. So b3 defending the pawn, and now b5. So this is small advantage for white. The big advantage is gone because he played king h1. So if he had played knight e d5, queen takes, and now he can't go queen takes. He can just move his queen across. This would have kept a huge advantage for Pragg. But yeah, he chooses the other line where he goes king h1, takes, f6, b3, b5, and knight d5. It's a pawn sacrifice. So takes, okay, he plays queen c5 first because you can't take twice here. There's a fork. The queen c5, desperately trying to exchange queens. Of course, Pragg doesn't exchange. And now takes queen check. Pawn takes pawn, queen takes, still there's a fork. But yeah, he goes for the queen check, king f1, and then rook f3. The pieces are coming fast and furious to active squares. Bishop takes knight, rook takes, and queen goes back. Takes and takes. If you look at this position, material is equal and there's just three pieces. So how can it be so good for white? The problem is the rook is not yet in the game, and it's not possible to bring it that easily. King e7 is there, but right now white will play rook b3. And if the queen moves away, then rook b8 check wins a rook and probably gets checkmate. Rook b7 is also strong. So here Magnus plays rook b4 holding on. Now can you find the move Pragg played? Just rook d3. Simple chess. Threatening takes, takes, and rook b3. The check is nothing. Yeah, the king can move. Wait a minute. Is it actually nothing? So if black plays a normal move, let's say h6 or rook g8, do we go here? Rook takes, rook b3, queen e1. There's no check after that. So he's fine. So there's no problem. So rook d3 threatens to take on b4 and then play rook b3. Rook takes, queen c7. Still holding on. Now can you find the symbol move to win this? He plays queen d1, preparing queen b1. And also queen d5, preparing rook b7. So if black plays king e7, for example, then queen d5. And if you bring the rook in, then the queen enters. I mean, rook cannot come in. Rook b7 is there. You win the queen. So there's no time for Magnus to activate his rook. So he is busted now. He plays g6 and now queen b1. He does not even go queen d5. Was queen d5 possible? I suppose he will play rook g8 and then rook b7. You hold on. Yeah? You hold on here. So this is the line queen d5. Let's say rook g8. The advantage is reduced considerably. But why? Rook b7. Queens. There's a draw here. King moves and check. Ah. So that is why Pragg didn't go queen d5. He went queen b1. He doesn't want to allow the queen check repetition. Threefold repetition here. So now what will Magnus do? Magnus goes queen c5 and now rook b7 comes in anyway. Takes and king h2. Getting out of any. That's very professional of Pragg. He gets out of any checks. So there is no queen c1, queen f4 check. He'll need two moves to get that check in, which means Pragg can now create his play with queen b3. So rook g8 and now queen b3. Threatening checkmate. Pawn d5, just rook takes h7. Preparing queen b7 and queen b8. Sorry. Queen b8 is a huge threat. And if you go queen c8 here, this queen takes pawn. Or is there a better move? Queen b4. Yeah, queen b4 is mate. Queen b4, king moves and checkmate. So here Magnus resigned right after rook into h7. This was a very nice win for Pragg. It's his first time defeating the world number one in classical chess over the board.